Welcome back to the Rant episode 2. I'm Brant, and this is my good friend Sam here today, and we're going to be talking about the Battlefield franchise, starting out with Battlefield 1. All taking it way, way back to World War One, and where this thing all started.
A sentry kit is available near your location.
I guess a change of identity, a change of vision, and ultimately a change in Battlefield, the game we love. And personally, I like Battlefield 1. I thought it was visually stunning. I thought the combat was okay. The time to kill is a little high. The gunplay wasn't the best because they were going for that slower time to kill. But the maps, the immersion, everything was great. At launch, not too much content. You know how that goes. But after updates, I think there's 4 map packs. They had so many guns, so many maps. Every front, the Russians, the Germans, the French. It was awesome and really hit on every note by the end of its life cycle. Sam, any comment on Battlefield 1, your experiences?
Yeah, I agree. I never really played it when it was super popular, so I played it towards the end of its life cycle when they had all the content, all the bugs were fixed, and it was a polished experience. So can't speak to the beginning of it, but Battlefield 1 still to this day is pretty great. Like you're saying, I think like the immersion is just so strong compared to a lot of the newer titles. Like, you know, you, you just there's so much going on, and it really gives you that real sense of like brutal war and all the like you hear people screaming bloody murder. You hear, yeah, I don't know, like the sound effects are excellent, the lighting's excellent, the maps feel organic, like they don't feel like someone intentionally designed a map for a game. It feels like you're in like a real place. um and yeah, Battlefield 1's great. It just feels good when you play it,
I,
overall.
I totally agree, bro. They had that grand operations mode too, where it's like Where
where
it's
like
like
you get on an armored train and like yeah, like the maps kind of evolve, like not the same as like that Shanghai building falling or whatever, but like yeah, there are scenarios where you get, and then you can also do I guess it's not entirely like multiplayer, but they have some scenarios where you can play with like just a small team, I think, right?
I don't know. I think that was 5. Uh, where they had the co-op mode. I might be wrong. There might have been one.
I might
I
be
know
wrong.
there
I
was the
haven't I don't
single
have too many
player.
hours in the game, but
Had the
yeah,
single
I
player
remember
in
doing
one.
like, oh right. Yeah,
I
they did
forgot.
have
Oh
single
God, we
player.
forgot. When games had campaigns in them when they launched. So you know,
Right, but yeah, it had like the normal story mode, but then
yeah,
in addition it had like these short chapter-based story things where you could play and you could like go in as like, all these various countries and do these various things. And I just remember the armor train coming in on the desert map was wild. And then when you act, because they had that in single player, which you'd expect, where you can do a lot more stuff when it's single player. You're not connecting to a bunch of people. But then when they added it in multiplayer, where people are taking they're taking command of the armored train, and you're quivering in the buildings on the side. And yeah, they definitely, the environment was, I don't even know how to describe, but there was like more events going on. It wasn't just like capture the flag or whatever the thing is. They had big things moving and happening, and it felt more alive, I guess, would be the right way to say it.
yeah. I mean, going back to what you said earlier, where how gritty, realistic it felt with.
Right.
I mean, you got like the trench commander blowing a whistle, go, go, go! You're crossing no man's land. There's mortars firing. There's guys getting blown up. There's
Right.
machine
There's a
gun
whole map where
fire.
like there's a map where everything is ash, everything is on fire,
Yeah,
and like
it's
it's just
just
like dark, gritty. Someone gets a flamethrower, you just see the guy turn to ash screaming for his life as like they definitely took the more mature, serious tone with that game as compared to, the titles we're going to talk about next. So,
yeah. I mean, it's just something that really bothers me in the newer games that I like. I don't know, might be a little thing for some people, might be a big thing for others, but it's the uniforms, the skins. Like I can't if I can't identify from a distance, is that my boy or is that an enemy? Because he's got the same skin that somebody on my team can have, or he just has a completely unrelated skin. Like, okay, it's a German guy, so you'd expect like a dark gray like uniform with the and you could easily pick them out if you're playing it as the Americans because your guys are all wearing, olive green. And you know, in Battlefield 1, all the different factions, all the characters, the assault class, the support, the medic, the sniper, they all had distinct looks with the same uniform for their country. I don't know. I thought that was a great little addition and really helped to sell like, all right, here we are. We got our announcer and like a French guy is telling you like, oh, you gotta go in and do this now, guys. Like, got the guys screaming in their languages and stuff. And like, unpopular opinion, Battlefield 5. I don't know. Nobody wants to shoot a woman in a video game and have them like screaming like the like bloody murder. Like, I Battlefield 1 was where I think things started going downhill. And I guess this is how we segue on to our next topic, Battlefield 5. Now, I didn't spend nearly as much time in 5 as I did in 1 because of, well, really at launch it was shit when it first came out. And, every Battlefield has kind of struggled at launch with, I mean,
big glitches
Battlefield
and stuff.
4, the
Yeah.
netcode, God, was unplayable for months. I remember they changed the entire movement system from the Battlefield 4 back to like the Battlefield 3, so your guy could like mantle over some things now and get over some things, but now he couldn't get over some other things, and like you would be firing mags at people, not hit them. I mean, I had that game on the 360 because it was impossible to get PS4s. I remember when it first came out, and then I got it on the PS4, and I was like, oh wait, this is kind of really good. Like they had all these things on the map, like that the 360 wasn't strong enough for and everything, and like that was the prime. But nevertheless, Battlefield 5 drops. Lukewarm reception, you know. Yeah, World War II game. There's like, okay, we got, I think when it launched, we got the British and we got the Germans, and half of the characters are women. And you shoot a girl, and they're like, ah, ah, like screaming. You can hear them screaming bloody murder like halfway across the map, and I'm just like, oh, oh, please stop. It's terrible. And like, I think this is when microtransactions really started to hit. I mean, Battlefield 1 had the supply crates or packs or whatever, but they weren't like egregious. So it was like, oh, here's your skin for your gun. Like, here, oh, you know, whoa, cool. And Battlefield 5, it was like, here's your legendary elite skin for $25 for this character to change their entire appearance and how they react to everything in the game. And oh, they come with this quest where you can get this melee weapon that's super cool for them and all this. And I'm like, dude, that's like some like Phantom of the Opera guy. Like on the German side, he's literally got like a Phantom of the Opera mask on with like a cape and like World War II
This kind
and
of goes into what you were saying earlier about, having to have the characters in proper uniform, right? Because in Battlefield 5, you could just buy a skin and everyone could be looking like you're saying, a fan of the opera. You got 20 guys wearing a mask, but it's all the same mask. And if you're not playing with the HUD, which games, a lot of people like playing without the HUD, you can't identify who anyone is because they're all just wearing crazy stuff or the same stuff, and they're not all in uniform. So
it's just, I think that's where the artistic vision for the series kind of started going, well, we don't know what the fuck we want. Are we giving it to the fans? Are we giving it to these people? Are we giving it to that people? Well, if the studio doesn't know, then how are us, the gamers, to know? Because it's either a super gritty, violent, like realistic, grounded battlefield in World War II, like you're trying to go, I mean, stop one of the greatest evils the world's ever known is Nazi Germany in World War II.
We have lost our hold of objective Charlie. Attention all squads. We have taken objective Baker.
And I remember since the first trailer, there was like, it was like a girl with a prosthetic arm or something, like running through her house, and everyone's like, "Oh no, here we go!" Like, Battlefield's just gonna, adopt every other game and lose its identity, and it was kind of like that for a very long time for Battlefield 5. It was just like the gunplay was better, yes. The time to kill, I mean, is like you'll look at a guy and he's laser dead on the floor in like half a second. Like I like that more than Battlefield 1's where it's like, you're pumping a guy full of lead to put him down, but there's also like the give and the take depending on the map design. Like, oh, I gotta cross this large open area and this guy's gun can melt me in half a second, but vice versa, you can do the same to him compared to unloading 100 rounds at a guy to finally take him down. And it was really just lukewarm again at launch, but then they had updates alongside Battlefront 2 at the time, and the updates provided the Pacific Theater of War with Iwo Jima as a map. Wake Island came back from the old Battlefield games. We had there was one more map that was like Paracel Storm from Battlefield 4, where the rainstorm would come in, and it was really awesome, and it was really immersive, and we really got to see another side of the war, and you're going through these Pacific Islands now, and it's the Japanese versus the Americans, so you got these new characters and factions and weapons, and finally they got the M1 Grand in here, so you can hear your ding 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 ding, and like, it's a World War II game. You need an M1 Grand. Come on, man. That's the first thing. And that was really where the game started picking up, and it was like, okay, they kind of have an idea what they're doing, and they had the weekly objective where, like, okay, you completed it all. Now you got this new American weapon, or you got this new Japanese weapon. Like, you can unlock the bazooka now, or this crazy Japanese shape charge at the end of a stick that you just run into a tank, or and they started adding all this really cool content to the game that not only fleshed out the gameplay, but fleshed out the factions and the characters and everything that went along with it. And it really just helped to make a better game because it's a World War II game. We can't have just a World War II game with it was World War II, not one country versus another country. We didn't even get to see Russia introduced to the game because they cut the production on Battlefield 5 for 2042, and they cut the production on Star Wars Battlefront 2 for 2042. And that game was really started the same way. I mean, there's legal actions passed on that game because of the loot box gambling. If you remember, Sam, how bad that one was at the start. It was like, oh God, it was awful to play. And then they started adding the
Talking about Battlefront?
yeah, Battlefront. And they started
Yeah.
adding those game that like capture conquest game mode where you had to go to
Oh,
the
like capital supremacy.
yeah, yeah, and that game mode was so fun other than when it was like 4 hours long and you kept going
Right.
to the ground.
You have
And you're just
4 hour
like,
time war.
oh, just help me. But like, that
They
game,
finally fixed that years later, but it took too long.
it was starting to run just like Battlefield 5 was, and then they just, took it off its feet before it had the chance to fly, and it's sad to see. But it's the way of the pushing out a game before it's ready.
Yeah,
Corporate
and this kind of
greed.
goes
I
back
mean,
to what you're saying with like identity shift. Like they have to understand who the actual audience is, and sometimes that might not be gamers, sometimes that might be investors, right? And it's like, well, we can't add everything to all these games all the time, and they have to make critical decisions of like, are we going to shut down Battlefront? Are we going to keep it going? Are we going to do this or that? And you'd think with like a massive studio that has hundreds of millions or more dollars that they'd be able to keep a couple of live service games going simultaneously, but you know, apparently not, or who knows? It's cost savings for investors, or I mean, it's definitely not for the gamers. That's for sure. I mean, like you're saying, Battlefront 2. When I thought it was getting really popular, and when I was getting into it, when they started adding a bunch of content, they added like, I actually forget the name of the robot, but like BB-8, I think, like the little ball,
you got it. Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right, that was when the movies were coming out. They added, they added a bunch of stuff years after the game came out, and that's when it was really well optimized, tons of content, and it was great. And then right when it started, for me, getting to be really good, they shut down all the live service, discontinued it for 2042, which was disappointing because that was basically, Star Wars Battlefield, and it felt exact. I mean, you had all sorts of vehicles, you had all sorts of different characters, all sorts of technology, crazy different maps, and it was awesome. So you'd hope the investment would pay off for 2042, but we've yet to really see if it's gonna pay off. They're still in that. We haven't got the 2042 yet, but they're in that
Ah.
beginning normal, like we talked about in Battlefield 5, like when it comes out, it kind of struggles with some issues, and that set the tone for the future games where it's like, all right, well, we know when it starts, it's probably going to have some issues, but that's to be expected.
I mean, interestingly enough, Battlefield 5 is still getting cosmetic content updates. So,
Which is wild. I can't believe that's even true.
like, so you can still swipe your card in the shop for new skins, but we're not adding any new gameplay options. So, uh, you're out of luck, buddy. Sorry, you know. And we this brings us here to the comparison between the God game, the chosen child of every Battlefield. I mean, I've played, gosh, I think since Bad Company 2 came out, I've been playing every single
That was my
Battlefield.
first game.
And Battlefield 4, what everybody expected this past, God, I guess it's been almost 5, 6 months now since 2042 dropped, but Battlefield 4 still holds up to this day. Had a singular vision. This is when games dropped completed on launch, though, and then they said, "Here's DLC after if you want more content." Right? So
Which wasn't a conversation topic.
it was live service did not exist then, and it wasn't
Because
live
that was
service.
before, like, that was before Fortnite, right?
Oh,
And that was
dude, yeah, many. That
before.
was 2011, 12 for
Oh, okay.
Battlefield 4. Yeah, so I mean that
Okay, yeah,
was
you're right. You're right. I forgot
a,
5. Yeah.
a
So,
long, long
yeah,
time
that was
ago.
before Fortnite.
time ago.
Fortnite. That was before, Call of Duty Warzone. All of that, because that's what really triggered. Like, I mean, well, PUBG wasn't live service for a bit, but it ended up now it's a similar thing. But
I don't even know what PUBG. I just look at the game now, and it's just like it started off as this super like realistic like military ass shooter, and I had like a few hundred hours in it. Now it's like, well, you can buy an anime skin and run around as an anime
well, they
character.
totally changed the strategy, right? They went from like a paid model to a free to play, and then from my understand, and I'm not like a PUBG guy. I don't think I've actually ever played it, but from my understanding, they also implemented it and how to focus on a mobile version. So they dedicated a ton of resources so you could play on your phone, and they dedicated a ton of resources to make it free, and that's no easy feat, going from collecting $30 a head to collecting zero and hoping that they'd buy. I mean, it takes a lot of investment to start structuring yourself like that and figuring out how you're actually going to make it work and keep it alive. Because like
Yeah.
if no one played it and no one was buying stuff, they wouldn't be able to keep the lights on for very long. So people, I'm sure, are probably buying stuff. People are probably playing it. The
Oh,
mobile
for
version,
sure. Oh,
yeah,
for
the mobile
sure.
version probably has ads, and I don't know. I've never played
Battle
it, but yeah,
Pass probably on
yeah,
the phone too, and on the
exactly.
regular one, and it's like it's still one of the top. Yeah, let's check the charts right now. Let's see what's riding at the top right now. Oh, we got CS:GO, Lost Ark, Elden Ring, PUBG sitting at 7 with
That's pretty high.
75,000 people on right now, and the game
Is it
came out.
exclusively on Steam?
That's on Steam, yeah, exclusively on Steam. I
Okay.
think that came out in 2017, I want to say, which then brings us full circle to our game of the night, Battlefield 2042, which, drum roll please, has 1,596 people on it. That started with an all-time peak of 100,590, so
Yeah, like
that's
99%.
99% decrease in the player
That's really
base within 6 months. I mean, you can just see this chart here. Just I don't even have the 6 month. It hasn't been out for 6 months. Came out in November, and there it goes, the steady decline. It's been, oh my lord, it hasn't held since January. It hasn't held over 10,000 players. And it's just been siphoning players since
Yeah, I mean, once they started getting hit with all the bad reviews and like, I mean, they got review bombed. All the YouTubers realized, oh, to take advantage of the algorithm, let me make a Battlefield 2042 sucks video, and everyone will watch it, and just we'll all bag on it together for views, right? And once that started catching fire, I mean, it was over. We had
yeah,
so many people leave so early, like before they could even really save it. And like, to be fair, like they didn't save it. I'm sure they probably tried to make an effort, but you know, it was one thing to another. Like from mismanaging their public relations Twitter over like winter break, they said they were like, "Oh yeah, we just took like 2 or 3 weeks off for the holidays," which like I get. I'm sure they were burnt out as hell, but you know, I don't know if you have to like tell everyone like, hey, and then for the whole holiday break where people are like getting the game for Christmas or whatever the case, it's just like it was pretty much in an unplayable state for a long time. Like there was, I mean, countless glitches where you couldn't revive your friends in normal conditions. You'd spawn in with invisible guns. You'd spawn in invisible. Enemies would be invisible. Vehicles would be invisible. Game would crash all the time. I mean, it was like one thing after another. They just couldn't get it right. And you hope that it follows the same pattern as the other ones, where it's like eventually they get it to a point where there isn't all these problems and all these broken mechanics. But like you're saying, it's only really been out for a couple of months, and they still haven't really saved it, and they're trying now to tell players what's going on. They'll do these like community feedback update. I don't know what they're called, but
I
it's
think you
basically
nailed
just
it
like
on the head, yeah.
yeah, and it's like, you know, the core feedback things that they do make sense and it shows that they're trying, but a lot of it is like I I don't know. I hope that they're fixing the like
Too
infrastructure
little,
of the
too
game.
late.
Yeah, like they already lost everyone. Like they should have come out and, if they just set expectations early on and said, "We know you're all pissed. We know no one's happy with the product we put out. We totally get it. But mark our words, 6 months from now, and it's going to take 6 months, like they got to set the expectation and give it time. We're going to give the We're Sorry update, and it's going to come with vehicles. We're going to bring the stuff from Portal into the main game. We're going to do this, that, and the other." And I bet people would still play it, even if it wasn't in a good state, because they knew at least, like, okay, they know how bad it is, but they're telling me, like summer of 22, we're gonna add the. I mean, the game's been out almost half a year, and if you click the store tab, there's nothing in there,
Just
and they're
radio
selling.
silence.
Right, they're selling a season pass to something that they haven't even told you what's gonna be in it. There's like, there's no, yeah. I mean, I've been ranting for a while, but I think it was just poor mismanagement, and part of it's probably from COVID, and like, I get it. They kind of just got really unlucky from a whole bunch of stuff, and it all came together at the same time for a really suboptimal launch. I don't know. I really don't think it could have gone any worse. Like,
I mean, if you look comparatively, Battlefield 2042 to Battlefield 4, which came out,
a
it's got
decade
a
ago.
decade ago. It's got 1,495 players, which is 101 less than a brand new game. And I mean, the newer Battlefield games I know have been attracting tons of attention. Battlefield 1's still in that same range, 1,480. But let's look. Battlefield 5, what are we sitting at? Oh, okay. Maybe it needs the Roman numeral.
We're also not looking at these at
Two,
like any peak.
2,344 players with an
Yeah.
11,030 day average for a game that wasn't received well at launch, that no one really liked. That, oh man, Battlefield 5, oh, that game ruined the series. But comparatively now, as it goes, everybody's put on their rose-colored glasses and we're looking back. I mean, hell, we played it the other day and we were even like, holy shit, a moly, what happened with Battlefield 2042? We're playing this and it's like it's good. I mean, it's like intense, and we're and these fights and going through these well-designed maps, and the vehicles aren't just non-stop spamming you and blah blah blah. And I don't want to shit on Battlefield 2042 the whole time because it's broken. It's a broken game at its core. Without any of the specialist cringiness or the whatever, we're gonna switch the whole Battlefield formula to fit a hero shooter sort of Call of Duty. We have a shitty battle royale that no one's gonna play, blah 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 blah. There's still fun to be had there. There's still Battlefield moments when the game's
And that's, I think, what they went for. They really shot to have Battlefield moments, and they wanted it to be more of a sandbox than like a traditional Battlefield. Because like Battlefield, kind of a sandbox, but they would always kind of like funnel you towards the goal, and you could do crazy stuff, but that wasn't the thing. Whereas now, the point is to have it be a sandbox. Like, you can. The maps are so big. Like they just want you to rip vehicles and do donuts and
the
intersections and fly
squirrel suit
helicopters through
girl.
buildings.
The squirrel suit girl. I mean, you could just
Yeah,
fly from a building and then land on a whole ass team and just fucking blow them away. And they're like, "Wha-"
right.
and then
And they,
the
I think,
guy that can grapple hook and stuff, and like they had some ideas that they were going for, but it's not if you're not in a vehicle mowing people down, like we hop in the bowl
Right.
and you can pull up with the 30 millimeter cannon and gun down defenseless infantry, or fly helicopter over with missiles and a 30 millimeter cannon blowing these guys away,
They
or
they designed the whole thing, I think, around those battlefield moments because you can be that wingsuit girl and carry a rocket launcher and carry a 50 caliber on your back and just fly through the entire like I forget the name of the map, but there's that snowy map where it's just like this massive cliff drop off, and there's one whole map on top of the cliff. The rest of the map is on the bottom of the cliff, and I really think they made that cliff like that whole map specifically for battlefield moments. So you can literally have
like,
like
yeah, that literally that
guys driving off the side in a Humvee and then falling 300 meters to their doom just to like laugh and do backflips in the sky and like it doesn't add anything to the actual gameplay experience because if you're on top of it, you basically can't see and you're not going to hit anyone on the bottom, and vice versa. If you're on the bottom, you can't do anything to the people on the top. And the only reason it's there is for people to drive vehicles off and scream and do crazy stuff and
squirrel
have like a
suit girl.
battlefield moment where. But yeah, or the squirrel super, you could literally jump off the top and fly all the way to the other side and just like,
It's
but
just
there's no,
like
yeah,
there's no
it's a good
substance
map,
to it,
but
like you're
it's weird
saying.
stuff.
It's just like they set it up to be like, well, if you watch our ad or trailer, you can send this jet with into the air and rocket the sky and then jump into another jet like that one famous guy did, or put C4
Yeah,
on
the
a thing and
Rendazook.
send it. Yeah,
Yeah,
Rendazook. And uh but it's like, okay, past that,
yeah.
what
Like if I'm not
depth
in the
do we
one
have?
percent of the 1% of the 1% of the craziest moments possible, what am I doing the other 99% of the time? And
Like,
it's all just like you running through an open field and no cover and an Apache ripping you to shreds.
and it's like the idea of not having classes breaks down any identity in the gameplay loop itself. When I play the other battlefields and I'm a medic, right? I'm going, alright, all I can do is I'm healing people, I'm reviving people. If I see a tank running my way, I don't have any tools to deal with it. I'm like, oh fuck. I hope there's an engineer or a friendly vehicle nearby to help me with that. And there's where that balance comes in. And then it's, oh, well, I got a guy in my squad with rockets, and he can send 3 rockets into the tank, but he's going to run out of ammo, so we need the ammo guy to throw down the ammo because that's the role he's going to play for the gameplay loop. But now I can be the character that can throw down a heal for myself, throw down armor, and shoot a rocket at the tank simultaneously. So it's like everybody's like almost this super soldier, like running around the battlefield, and it's like, again, you're shooting the same people that are on your side because they have the same skins, and you're like, well, I don't know if that guy's good or bad, but he's got orange glowing lights on him, so I guess he's bad. And yeah, it's just like, it just numbs my mind after a while because it's like, and the old Battlefield games are you'd have you'd role
You're
play.
oriented, like
You
you
role
know
play.
what's going on.
Yeah, you
And
have.
yeah, you just have orientation. Like I mean, the example you gave with like being the medic and like seeing heavy armor and understanding like you're gonna have to turn around and rely on someone else is perfect because in 2042 everyone like you're saying is a lone wolf super soldier, which like could be cool. Like it really could be cool if they did it right, but they have to enforce some degree of limitation on what you can or can't do because having everyone be able to do everything, I mean, once people discover like the meta or whatever, even though like I don't think there was a couple overpowered weapons and whatever, but like even though you have all these options, people still gravitate towards the same things, and it makes the gameplay stale at a point because you have the same crazy kid in a jet who just destroys everyone, and you have the same people who are on the ground with LMGs, like like there's just no hard stop on what you can or can't do. So you can just like sit in a corner and keep calling down ammo drops and keep calling down ammo drops, and at the same time, like you're saying, you can also be a healer, you can also be anti-air. You can literally fly through the air in a squirrel suit with an anti-air rocket, and like, you can see through walls. You can do. You, there's just no limit. There has to be some sort of limit or organization. Like they could keep the same characters, but at least put them into their respective role.
That's what I'm
And
saying,
I
dude.
don't even think it would be hard. That's the worst part. Like I really think someone, whoever works in game balance or design, or you know, you just have like a couple meetings, you sort it out, and then you just change the binary in the code. It says, oh, if you're this class, you can't equip an RPG.
It's
And like
like
I would think it would take like maybe a couple weeks at the most, or a month at the most, because all you're doing is restricting. You're not even adding anything. You're just saying, hey, these guys can't do this. And I don't know
man,
why they haven't done it. Like I think they're afraid, and they've probably doubled down so hard at this point that they don't want to, which is crazy. Like everybody's saying the same thing. It's not like there's a feud in the community of like, no, I love this. This is perfect. This is what I've always wanted. Everyone's giving the same exact advice and feedback, saying you need to organize them into roles so there can be some degree of balance. And then they
just
just don't do
some
it.
degree of what the fuck is going on? Because like every time I play the game and I join the squad, you got Jim Bob and Charlie and John and Sue, and they're all on other opposite ends of the map, and they're all doing their own things, and you lose that whole team like
Togetherness.
balance.
We have a breach at one of our objectives.
Great content.
One of us is down. Our forces have taken Gulf sector. U.S. forces have taken full Echo sector.
Stop the U.S. forces from conquering every sector.
U.S. troops assaulting one of our objectives. We hold full Delta sector.
Yo, I'm going to. That's really just trying to run too late.
U.S. forces control Alpha sector.
They are attacking Gulf War. Stop the U.S. forces from conquering every sector.
U.S. forces now control Charlie sector.
They need a big update. They need to put portal stuff in the main game. They need to get voice chat. They need to. There's a lot they got to do, and truth be told, they need to do it because if not, this is probably one of the biggest flops I think I've ever seen in my entire life from a huge studio. Spending, I don't actually know what the budget was. My guess is it had to be a couple $100 million or more, and to have what you said, 1,300 people on right now. I mean,
That's
that's like
brutal.
less people than you'd find in a local mall or something, or like in a big high school with like 2,000 kids. It's like there's not even a high school's worth of people on a huge AAA title. Like it's just, I don't know. They need to fix it, and if they don't, there's gonna be a lot of people who never buy a Battlefield title again. So I think I've said my piece, but sad times for the Battlefield fan, that's for sure.
I'm not upset. I'm not mad or angry. I'm just upset and disappointed. And that's my closing statement.